Now, if I was a manager of a team, I would be curtailing the parade to your own children.
Yeah.
Like there's nieces and nephews and cousins and all sorts. Like it's like a parade. Like this is a serious county final. It's not a parade for children.
Mickey Hart here. You're listening to the GAA Hour football show.
The GAA Hour with Colin Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet. It took me a long time to get here.
So the only place to start, Conan, after a jam-packed weekend of county finals, huge excitement all over the country and celebrations, fellas falling off lorries, referees' houses being pelted with eggs, is the huge news that Skerries have put St. Bridget's down to Senior B, and you're up as a senior club next year. Congratulations.
That's the only place to start, yeah. We were a senior club this year, Willie. We were just hanging on in a relegation playoff there out in St. Margaret's. But
oh yeah, you're not back in it. You've retained your place in it.
Retained our rightful place in Senior
and massive big news, the St. Bridget's are gone down to Senior B. Like they were a big hitter for a long time, you know, in Dublin club football. Paddy Andrews wasn't playing, wasn't even there. I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah, he played 2 weeks ago against Castlerahan. They ran them tight enough. Castlerahan were already through for that game, so I don't know what sort of shape they were in. But unless he just had a holiday book, thinking championship would be over at this stage.
Yeah, those kind of things happen. Yeah. They beat us in a Leinster semi-final in 2011, and you know, they ended up losing the final, but it's a huge fall for them. They're pretty much back in the intermediate grade. But anyways, enough about that. I was in O'Moore Park yesterday. Portlaoise won their 12th title in 13 years. Laois Championship is as dull as the Leinster Championship, if we're being honest. That's 3 in a row for Portlaoise. They won 9 in a row. Portlaoise very unimpressive in the game, to be honest. Collection, I don't want to patronise Collection or anything, but they're limited enough team, you know, and they got Portlaoise within a point. It was bizarre scenes at the final whistle because most of the crowd were for Collection. Portlaoise crowd didn't have a huge amount of cheer on. It was almost like the idea Portlaoise would hammer them, and then when they didn't, and it looked like it was a game, it was just a weird atmosphere. When the final whistle blew, there was no cheer obviously from Collection because they lost. There was no cheer from Portlaoise because they're almost like, should we be celebrating, scraping over the line against Collection? It was like it was a draw. The referee blew the final whistle and the whole stand was quiet. It was just weird.
So the fans weren't even celebrating either?
Well, Portlaoise wouldn't have a huge following at it, but I didn't feel like celebrating. Like we were holding on against a team that, you know, just haven't featured anywhere in the championship for a long time. So it was their first ever county title. So I don't know. Portlaoise haven't played well all year, and they're not playing. They're not clicking up front. I've seen them like this before in Laois, and they can rise it for the Leinster club. Yeah. Whether they can do it this year or not, we'll have to wait and see. But on the evidence of yesterday, it was this very, very, very poor stuff from Portlaoise now. Disappointing.
I saw Bruno McCormick 22 years later still doing it.
Bruno McCormick he wasn't outstanding yesterday, and he had actually been dropped this year. He came on in a few games. Well, I wouldn't say dropped. He's 38. He was coming on. And then he scored 1-6 against Port Harrington in the semi-final, 1-5 from play. Right. So then he started the final. He was quiet enough yesterday, but look, it was Portlaoise just didn't click. They didn't click at all. But like, I mean, he came on in 1999 when we won the county title. So that was his first ever county title in 1999. He came on as a sub that day. He was only young. I'd say he's the greatest player that's ever played for Portlaoise in the history of Portlaoise. I would put him into that category. He's been that good. Another thing, and you might call this a silly thing to talk about, but in the parade before the match, this is a county final, there was 15 Portlaoise players. I counted 19 children. Now, I think this is just a uniquely Laois thing, and I think it's a Portlaoise thing, and I think it has grown legs over the years where there's only 4 players on the team have children. Now, if I was a manager of a team, I would be curtailing the parade to your own children. Yeah. Like there's nieces and nephews and cousins and all sorts. Like it's like a parade. Like this is a serious county final. It's not a parade for children. So I was looking at that going, there's too many children there. Oh, have you a strong opinion on this? Like, I mean, I don't know. I just think, I haven't seen it in any other county. I don't think it's a big thing in any other county. But there was 19 children walking around in the parade, and it's obviously great for the children. But this is serious business.
Yeah, I saw your tweet, but you played it straight. You didn't give an opinion in your tweet. You just gave us the facts.
I gave the facts. Yeah, I was just acting like a journalist. I just reported.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I could see it'd be really nice to do it with your children. All right, maybe just inspire the next generation when they're walking around. Yeah. Or should you earn it? by getting your place in the squad and walking. I don't really know. This has come at me like a curveball here, Willie.
You don't have a strong opinion on it then. And the children actually usually they get out at half time in county finals and things like that, and there was little exhibition games and they weren't allowed out at half time yesterday, so that was just a bit of a change from Portlaoise. In Westmeath, Gary Castle caused an upset. Lomans threw away a lead to lose, which wouldn't be like them at all. I don't want to be harsh on St. Lomans, but they came from 8 down at half time, 3-4 to 5 points, and that's after missing a penalty. So you could say at half time, 8 points down, they'd missed a penalty, everything's going wrong. How did they turn this around? They won. They ended up winning by 4. Did 4 unanswered points straight after half time, and then a penalty. Desi Dolan retired after the game. He took himself off at half time pretty much. He had a chat with his younger brother Gary, who's manager of the team now. So Desi started corner forward, and they had a chat and they took him off at half time. Desi's 40. We know how absolutely brilliant Desi has been, and I think his brother Gary talked him into playing one more year for the young fellas in the club, which is fair enough. Like, I mean, sometimes you think older fellas like that can be cast aside too early, but like, I mean, you see Bruno's 38 and he's still doing it. Now Desi obviously wasn't playing that well and said, here, listen, I'm coming off. But I think it was a tactical thing, because they took him off for a fella called James Sheeran, who's a big target man full forward, and started getting it into them. And he was fouled for a penalty. So they've got 4 unanswered points. Then he was fouled for that penalty. They scored that. Now they're back in the mix. Now Lomans' memories of the Leinster final against Murfield come flooding back.
There's 26 minutes to go, never mind 6 minutes like there was against Murfield. Like Desi's quotes are very good there, aren't they? He's just, he's very humble, sort of basically saying it wasn't my day, and it made more sense for me to step aside. It's great to see after like all the service that he's given them and Westmeath. But like, what I love most about that was the 4 unanswered points. Like, how many teams would come out and think we need to get a goal to get back into this game? 4 points, like, in whatever 5 minutes, we game on. 4 points in it, like,
now they're game on. So like I said, Desi retired from Westmeath football. They obviously have a Leinster club to look forward to, but he retired from football. He won 8 county titles, one more than his father. So he's happy enough about that. So congratulations to Desi, I suppose, after a brilliant career. 6 Mile Bridge win their 4th in 7 years in Clare. This one was on television. I was watching some of it before I went over to O'Moore Park. The first 45 seconds of this game were unbelievable. It was like no one could actually puck a ball without being hooked. It was, you know what I mean? It was like, get into it early, and they were all just tearing into it. It was gas. But Niall Gilligan, talking about the elder statesman, he came on at 43. So he came on in the final stages. So this was kind of the convincing win in the end by 6 Mile Bridge. Cratloe a little bit disappointing in the second half. Like, I mean, I don't know, it's just a little bit of a weird one. You've Conor McHugh in midfield, who is an all-star forward. You've Diarmuid Ryan, who's forward for the Clare Seniors, playing wing back. Then you've Podge Collins, who's been well marked by Barry Fitzpatrick from 6 Mile Bridge. So I don't know, for me, that's your 3 main. I know you have Colin McInerney, who's in the forward line as well, but I don't know, like, I mean, sometimes I even look at it, and the reason I'm thinking about it is because I'm thinking of Portlaoise, and I would pick the Portlaoise team an awful lot differently than it's been picked. You know what I mean? At your starting point, one thing Mick O'Dwyer was brilliant at is that he didn't experiment with backs in forwards and backs in midfield. He picked bloody forwards in the forwards, backs in the backs, and players in their best position. And I think
there's players in the best position.
That's your starting point for any manager, for me.
And like that makes it easier to mark Podge Collins in, right? When you're withdrawing some of the players who would be danger men in the forward line, when you're taking them out of the forwards, if you put them into the forward line, Podge Collins could be more free, or get onto loose ball and stuff like that. Whereas it's easier to keep an eye on him. Exactly.
I think Diarmuid Ryan played in the backs with them all up along, just played wing forward for Clare, but he's very good in the forwards, and I would be putting him there. So Tim Crowe said after the game, I think it's down to Davy. I thought this was interesting. He said tactically he devised a plan that would beat Cratloe. We were here 2 weeks ago in the semi-final. After 20 minutes, he said, I've made up my mind. So he's watching Cratloe in the semi-final. He's looking at them, and after 20 minutes, Davy knows how to beat them.
That's class.
It's a bit like, do you know the story of Jim McGuinness when Donegal got over Armagh? He said on the bus, he had this dossier. This is how we're going to beat Dublin.
Here's how you beat Dublin.
And here's how you do it. But like, I mean, Davy just knew straight away. So he said, Tim Crowe is talking about the partnership, or the the manager and coach partnership. They didn't get on, Crowe and Davy, which would be understandable considering Davy can be spiky enough character. Maybe Tim Crow is as well, but he said this should have been done years ago. Your own ego doesn't really matter when they're talking about, being clubmen, 6 Mile Bridge. They've won 4 in 7 years now, so they're the dominant team in Clare, and it's a championship which is shared around. So that's it. The message here is don't let your ego get in the way of your club.
Yeah.
Oh, what a lovely message.
That's class. I remember having 2 assistant managers shouldering each other on the sideline one time because they couldn't agree over a decision, even though there was a manager there as well, but they just started going at each other. Madness.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen selectors come to blows. I saw my own father come to blows with another selector.
Really?
On the sideline. And I nearly got involved in it. It was back in 99. I went for a pint with Chris Conway and Danny Doug after the county final yesterday, and Greg Ramsbottom, and we were reminiscing about this this actual thing where your man, that the other selector, just wouldn't give me a break at all till my father had to tell him to shut up, and then they came to blows. Anyways, I don't know why I'm telling that story on the show. It's just it was fresh in my head, and you kind of egged me into it there.
Your father just looking out for you.
Yeah, and my father would be like a quiet sort of a man, unlike me. Forban won the first county title in 25 years. Unbelievable scenes in Offaly because they were hammered last year by Road. Niall McNamee didn't start with Road. He had to come on as a substitute. Funnily enough, Dara Canavan didn't start for Errigal Kieran. I think both players must have been injured. They only came on as subs. So this is all about Cian Johnson. We'll talk about him in performance of the weekend. He scored 2-3, 2-2 in the second half. So they came from 5 points down with 20 minutes to go to win by 5. So what a turnaround. And what a turnaround from last year. When Road won by 11. Sean Dempsey, former Laois manager, is the Forban manager, so he's took them over this year. So it takes a Laois man to come in and get Forban over the line.
No coincidence there. I saw a great, we'll probably talk more about Johnson in performance of the weekend, but Colin Kenny tweeted saying he had 6 shots in the quarter-final against Shamrock, scored 6 points, 5 shots against Eden Derry in the semi, scored 5 points, and 5 against Road, scored 2-3.
I saw that. I didn't know who he was, so I didn't know whether to be listing out his statistics on the show.
That's why I named him, so it's like it's not my fault if it's wrong.
This lad could have been any randomer here that you're reading out, so we don't know if that's definitely true or not. But yeah, Sean Dempsey was Laois minor manager in 2003 when he won the All-Ireland and then was with the under-21s in 07. Interestingly, Mick Dempsey, who was in as Kilkenny coach, we were speculating about what he might do. He's Sean's brother. He's going back to manage his club in Laois, St. Joseph's, as a coach, and Joe Higgins is their manager. So that's a fairly tasty management team for St. Joseph's. They lost to Portlaoise this year by 3 points. Not that far away. Maybe the Laois Championship, Laois then, or Portlaoise just got over Port Harlington, so maybe the Laois Championship is, then they only won the final by a point.
Yeah.
On the evidence of yesterday, Portlaoise are coming back to the pack rather than the pack are catching up.
Oh,
maybe
really?
Maybe there's somewhere, maybe the truth kind of lies somewhere in between. Talking about outside managers coming in and getting teams over the line, Pat Flanagan, former Offaly manager, former Westmeath manager as well, I'm fairly sure, got Padraig Pearce's finally over the line. These were appearing in their 8th county final. This was the deferred game on the television yesterday. It was a convincing enough win. Roscommon Gales got a late goal, and then there was 8 minutes of injury time. Imagine having to go through that because a late Roscommon Gales goal meant there was only 3 in it, and then you have 8 minutes of injury time with the threat of a goal hanging over you, and you haven't won the county title yet, and you were comfortable only a few minutes ago. And look, listen, they got over the line anyway, so congratulations to them.
Yeah, Padraig Pearce's were 9 points up at one stage, weren't they? And then dragged it back to 3. That is nerve stuff there.
Nerve-wracking, but that makes the victory all the better, doesn't it? Just barely getting over the line makes it all the better. So Trillick won their second in 5 years in Tyrone. This was a dour defensive game. Dour is only one way to describe it. So it's 12 points to 2-4 in the end, and that's with a late goal. So it was a convincing win by Trillick. They were well the better team. The Errigal Kieran forwards only managed 1 point, and that was from Peter Hart. So we'd Rory Brennan man marking him. He put in a man of the match display. So an under performance by Peter Hart. He ended up with 1-3, but that was the penalty was the last kick of the game. The game was blown up after the penalty went in, and 2 frees and 1 from play. So underperforming point. Like I said, Dara Canavan only came on after 40 minutes, so that was a weird one. Listen, this fellow was injured. There's no doubt if it was Pascal, his uncle, trying to leave him on for some time. Let's finish with our best team. So that was it. But Ergal Kieran were actually more defensive. They just had, this was not the Ergal Kieran. I spoke with Peter Canavan up at the league match. I was up there and he says they're moving away from that, unless they were just spooked by Trillick's forwards and, you know, Maddie Donnelly and Lee Brennan, and they decided to do this. But absolutely, Peter Canavan was selling me the picture that Tyrone Club football is moving away from it, and Ergal Kieran absolutely are moving away from it. But it doesn't look like maybe in a final they just revert back to the kind of conservative game, and they don't want to take risks.
Yeah, I was looking like at Trillick's quarterfinal and semi-final, and they beat Clonau and Coal Island, and it kept saying about this effective system that they have. So unless Ergal Kieran were just responding to that, then like, you don't want to go out and be so naive against a team who have an effective system. Yeah,
and they beat Tramore as well. So Trillick beat Tramore, Clonau, Coal Island, and Ergal Kieran to win it. So well-deserved final. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on in the Ulster Club. Tyrone teams don't generally do well in the Ulster Club. I think maybe there's an element of, because Tyrone is so bloody competitive and you can't retain it and you can't get used to winning it, that they're just happy to win it. So you'd like to see Trillick with the team they have maybe change that kind of attitude.
It should be one of the best Ulster clubs in a long time. Like, you know, there's no dominant team there anymore. Crossmaglen don't dominate like they used to.
But they're coming back though.
They're coming back, but are they there yet? You know, Guidor won it last year. Kilcoo are back in it. I think they might be favourites, but they've won by 1 point in their last 2 games as well. Like, so yeah, I think it's wide open. It's going to be very interesting Ulster this year. And
Castlerahan, we've Cian Mackey coming up in part 2. We'll ask him about it. They obviously didn't take the Ulster Club very seriously last year, to put it mildly, when they won their first ever one, but they won their second. They retained it now, so I presume that they'll go into the Ulster Club with a different perspective. They play Guidor, or whoever wins Ulster, or whoever wins Donegal, Guidor or Naomh Conaill. Guidor, I'm sure, are favourites for that one. So the Antrim final went to extra time again. Holy shit, Carrigan ended up winning it. Goal to win games, so it was 3-16 to 23 points. It was Lovederg came back in normal time. They were 4 down, so they were the ones that came back, forced it to extra time. And this is just a championship that didn't disappoint. It was just non-stop excitement, and it was Carrigan have retained the title. They made it back to back, and your heart will go out to Lovederg after the year they had and all the replays, and then this going to a replay and extra time and losing out. My God.
Yeah, that's 5 games between the semi-final and final that they've played, and they drew 4 of them, and obviously they lost an extra time there. Like, so yeah, they really give it a rattle. But Carrigan, it's great for them as well though. Like, they were having a real tough time trying to get over the line when St. Gall's were dominating, and they finally get over the line, and now they've got a purple patch going themselves. Yeah,
they definitely have. Glencar, Manor, Hamilton, which I had trouble saying last week. I don't know why. It's actually very easy. They won with a last minute point. It was a free from their captain Conor Dolan. What fairy tale stuff. Your captain, last minute free, curls it over from near the sideline. Like, it doesn't get it. That's Roy of the Rover stuff, especially when you're captain and your team needs you and you do it. Ballinamores, Donald Feely was sent off in the 30th minute following a sideline incident. So it was interesting. What's this sideline incident? It was a free-for-all apparently over near the sideline, and he picked him out. So it was an interesting one from a referee. When there's a free-for-all, usually he'll get rid of one from each side just to, because they were all at it. But just to pick the one out, Ballinamore will feel probably maybe a little bit aggrieved by that, but they battled back and got it back to a draw. But Glencar, Manor, Hamilton got over the line at the very end. Like you mentioned, Kilcoo only won by a point. It was a 51st minute goal that they needed. Warren Point apparently were very wasteful. No big news that Kilcoo won their 7th in 8 years. And no huge news in Waterford either, where Ballygunner won 6 in a row. Won it very convincingly. They're winning those finals. That championship's getting a very boring as it turns out. Stephen O'Keefe, their goalkeeper, Waterford goalkeeper, was quoted after the game, said a lot of people would have questioned the hunger to come back after winning the Munster, because it was no secret that the Munster was our aim for a good few years, and finally got it. And we finally got it, and as soon as we got it, we wanted more. So I suppose he has a point. Like, they were the bridesmaids in the Munster Championship for so long, then they won it last year, and then they're back into their championship. Maybe, psychologically you've tasted that bigger success. Now is this, going to be as challenging maybe, and maybe they take their eye off the ball. But as it turns out, they obviously see the club championship now is just a stepping stone to get back to where they want to be.
But it does sound like something similar in Port Leash, where you're just expected to win Leash and give Leinster a rattle then as well. It'd be a weird psychology, I think.
Yeah.
And it makes it tougher to get through the county championship.
No, it does. And like, I mean, just from a Port Leash point of view, like, there obviously you have to get your head right and your mentality right. And if you go in with that, but I think Port Leash have bigger problems with the system that they play, and they just don't destroy teams like they used to. I think they're playing similar systems to teams that are playing those systems because they're not as good as Port Leash. Do you know what I mean? This makes no sense to me. Like, I mean, the better team, Dublin don't go down to someone else's system because they're the better team. They don't. They go out and try to hammer them.
Yeah,
that's the mentality. So I don't get that. Dublin Club Championship. These games were on Saturday night. Well, two of them were on Saturday night. The big one, Nafina and Ballyboden, was the pick of the games. It was a classic, really. Nafina, you would say, threw it away, going 4 points up with 5 minutes to go. Should have closed that out. Maybe a bit of inexperience. The big talking point out of this was Conor McHugh getting sent off, which really was just a disgraceful decision by a referee who, in fairness, didn't see it.
Yeah.
Did the linesman see enough of it? Like, I mean, we're talking about this all year, haven't we? We've just mentioned this so many times on the show at inter-county level. The instigator of a wrestling match gets the other fella who he wants to get. I've told the story plenty of times of me getting Cian O'Sullivan, who wanted no part of a yellow card and wanted no part of a wrestling match. Yeah. And I got him on a yellow card because I wanted to get him on it. Now, if he was already on a yellow, I'm getting him sent off. It's wrong. There's somebody who starts those rows. Those wrestling matches, and there's another fella who wants no part of it. And Conor McHugh wanted no part of what Declan O'Mahony was doing. Declan O'Mahony was using all of experience. He wanted no part of marking Conor McHugh, so just wanted to wrestle him to the ground. And if Conor McHugh was guilty of anything, it was just trying to break himself free. He should have just gone to ground holding his arms out. Do you know, he actually was just honestly trying to break free, and it maybe looked like he was getting entangled with him. I don't know. Like, I mean, there probably is no excuse for Conor McHugh getting it anyway. He didn't deserve anything. I'm wondering about the perception of it, because he was trying to wriggle free. It might have looked like he was throwing an elbow back or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was trying to think about it from the rest point, because it is the most frustrating thing when that happens. Like, there's 20 seconds left, his team have a chance to win it. He's their on-fire player. He doesn't want to be on the ground wrestling with a defender or a midfielder. But yeah, the linesman's obviously told the referee something, and then when the referee gets over, he hasn't seen it. And I think O'Mahony was bleeding at this stage then, because of McHugh's arms were swinging everywhere. So the ref comes over, whatever information the linesman's given him, he looks, he sees one player with blood on him, and then thinks, I'll just punish both of them here. Yeah, I can sort of see where he's coming from, but yeah, you'd think, come on, like, Conor McHugh doesn't want to be there in that situation. And I actually think O'Mahony's gotten away with a bit of the commentary then because of that decision. Like, you know, it's a bit disgusting what he did. Like, he held on to him for 15 seconds.
Oh, it was, yeah. He didn't let go. He didn't let go of him.
It's wrong, when you did it with Cian O'Sullivan. It's wrong, and it's wrong seeing that, especially
you're cheating.
So you are cheating.
You're blatantly cheating. Now it's accepted because, well, like, I mean, I did it. Yeah. I cheated. Yeah. Well, is that cheating, or is it getting a yellow? Is it gamesmanship? It's hard to know.
But like a game, we'd all do it, sort of thing. That's the problem.
Well, it's completely not right. But considering referees' tendencies to give two wrestling players yellows, the motivation's there, right? Like, I mean, it is, and it's wrong. Interestingly, the Ballyboden players were all wearing GPS trackers. I saw a tweet from a fella called Niall Curran, which got a bit of traction. He was like, Ballyboden players wearing GPS trackers. We don't even have 50 in football. So he's a club player in Meath. It is unusual to see a club with all those GPS trackers. 6 Mile Bridge were wearing them yesterday as well. Now, I have a funny feeling, where would they get the money for that? They could be Wexford's ones. You wouldn't know with Davy. Like, Wexford would have the means to get that. Would Davy have got them for them? I'm sure he could have easily asked that favour. I don't know. I'm not saying he did. But, like, I mean, it's unusual to see, with clubs struggling for money, to see them, all the players wearing GPS trackers.
Yeah, maybe when Davy was negotiating whether or not to stay on with Wexford, this was part of the bargain. Or, like, you know, Wexford have been done for a few months. Maybe they just took the ones the players were already using there.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. They'd be just sitting there otherwise, and it's look, we won't bring. A lot of people complaining about the attendance at the quarterfinals on Saturday. So there was 1,000 at the game. It does seem very, very, very low. Now, quarterfinals aren't exactly huge occasions or anything. They're just kind of, you get through them and you're into the semi and the final. It's not like they're... But Na Fianna Ballyboden would have been a very attractive game, and Jude's Vincent's would be a pretty attractive game as well. Jude's won that very comfortably, actually. I was surprised. Vincent's really are on the slide. But, you're talking about these teams having huge memberships. You're talking about 250 people per team. Obviously, that's just the basic maths. We don't know how many were from where, but like, these are big clubs, and on Sunday mornings, these teams, we know they have huge numbers of children and all playing at under 8s, under 10s level. And I don't know, maybe are their parents from Roscommon and Laois and all those where they'll drop them down to training, but they've no interest in the actual club. So maybe Dublin having all this huge surge in population and having all these cultures moving to Dublin and having families and children in Dublin, is that adversely potentially affected? It might not affect the club numbers wise, but are the parents interested in the club, or did you obviously just leave them down there to play? The club benefits from having a strong team, but they don't have like that community, family based support.
Yeah, it's like the clubs are almost too big. Like I've only been in 2 clubs, and I always compare them now, and I've only been in Skerries for 2 years, in fairness, but I don't know half the amount of people in the club. I don't know what's going on in all the underage teams, where I was so completely immersed in it. In Derry now, a lot of that's on me as well, but it just seems like there are too many teams, and like there's football, camogie, hurling, and whatever else. But you said there's 250 there as a basic maths from each club, like supporting the teams. Ballyboden have 140 teams. Do you know? Like 140 teams from juvenile to adult. Na Fianna have 125. Both of them have over 3,000 members. Like Johnny Cooper tweeted around the time of the Metro story that was going on. He said we have over 3,500 members. So, like, geez, like the numbers are there. Obviously, like they're all engaged, and the GAA culture in that sense is great, participation wise. But
how are they so low?
I don't know.
They need to make such a much bigger effort to connect with the families and with the parents of the children who are playing with them, or else I don't know, that it just seems bizarre that you'd have 3,000 members like that and that many number of teams, and they're averaging 250 each. Now I know it is only a quarter final, and Portlaoise are very badly supported, even though they dominate. Laois, it's hard in big towns. The interest isn't necessarily always there, and that's not. You don't have that community feeling where everybody in the town is obsessed with it. There's rugby players and there's soccer players, and in Dublin it's like that as well. So there's different communities in smaller clubs and smaller towns. The soccer club is the GAA club, is the rugby club. They all play everything. There isn't like separated, distinct, or playing groups where there is in bigger towns.
No, that's right. And it seems like no matter if it's under 14s or whatever it is, like that's just a team that you play for, sort of thing. And I think it's harder in towns to get that sort of way of life into people's minds, where it's like everything you do, if you're 13 or if you're 17, it should be going towards the senior team. That's why you're playing. Yeah. And then like the whole club, and then therefore your life revolves around that senior team, because you're trying to get there and you're trying to feed it. But it's harder to do because, like you said about the parents moving in and stuff, they're just dropping the kids down to play for that team that they play for.
Yeah, it's just that team, and that's it. I wonder, is Dublin going so well maybe have an adverse effect on supporting clubs? Like, you spend the summer following this unbelievable team in good weather, and Dublin seems to be these fans' club. And then a quarter final in Parnell Park at club level.
It's on RTE.
It's definitely not as glamorous. Maybe being on television affected the attendance as well. Maybe you're being a bit harsh.
Yeah, like in fairness, as a neutral, I probably would have went to the game, but because it's on RTE,
because on telly,
and watch it.
Yeah, you watch it. Yeah, but definitely an interesting one. Their attendances for their finals is usually pretty good. Parnell Park. I've been at a few Dublin county finals. So in Kilkenny, we're gone away from county finals now. Cheddar is doing the business with James Stephens. Cheddar kept this very hush hush. I knew he was James Stephens' manager, and I wanted to talk to him about it, and he didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, really?
No, he wanted to keep this on the down low, didn't want to start going on and on about it, but he has James Stephens in the county final. So he's in there managing them, and he is joined by Seamus Dwyer from Balnakill on the coaching team. In true Cheddar style, he's playing Owen Larkin as a sweeper. So, you can't beat Cheddar for the old hurling brain, and that makes perfect sense. Owen Larkin, pushing on in years, he's a phenomenally brilliant player, and instead of being man-marked by someone running after him when the legs aren't the same, give him that free roll and let him hit the wings with it and set up plays and do that. That's always the way. That's using your brain with older players. Give them a role where they don't necessarily have to, be killed, but can influence the game as well. So it makes perfect sense. They were 115 to 2-9 winners over Castlecomer. Then in Tipperary, so there's 4 North Tipperary teams in the county semi-finals. I'm not sure this means too much to you, Conan. It doesn't actually mean all that much to me either, but it seemed like a bit of a news story that North Tip are dominating. They obviously have 2 different championships before the county championships, so they've their own unique way of doing it. Kildangan beat Toomevara in the quarter-final yesterday, and the referee Philip Kelly had his house egged during the night. So Shane Brophy, who's head of sport in the Nina Guardian, said that he had his house egged during the night and also received abusive texts around the same time. He isn't taking it to the Gardaí, but the club involved have been informed. So there's no need for that with Philip Kelly. Apparently he should have sent off one of the Kildangan players for an off the ball hit on Toomevara's Mark McCarthy in the first half, and apparently Kildangan are no strangers to the rough and tumble of sewing it into you. Maybe that's it. So these are obviously Toomevara ultras not too happy about this, so they headed to Philip Kelly's house and threw eggs at it. I think it's harmless enough stuff, if we're being honest, let's not get too over the top about it. A few eggs isn't going to kill Philip. A few abusive texts. What he should do is put 2 and 2 together on the abusive texts and the eggs, and from the abusive texts he got, go in and ask the local shop, did you sell eggs to this fella?
You've been here before, will you?
Do some detective work.
You've had eggs in your house before.
So some inter-county news. Pádraig Joyce is the new Galway manager. He has been recommended for that role. His backroom team includes John Dively, who obviously played with Pádraig, won All-Irelands with him. Micheál O'Donnell and John Concannon is the backroom team. He beat Liam Kearns to the post, so he'd be a hugely popular choice in Galway for that. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays. I know he wouldn't necessarily be a fan of the football Kevin Walsh played, so could be watch this space. Could be very exciting Galway team, and I could extend my All-Ireland to 4 years maybe.
I was going to say, do you want to revisit it now and do another 3-year prediction, or do you still have the squad,
Yeah, no, I don't.
What if they get to a final? Because remember you cheated a little bit, but you said if they get to a final, then you've won.
I'd give them a chance of getting to a final, all right, yeah. I definitely would. If Dublin and Kerry played each other in a semi-final, you'd give Galway definitely a chance of getting into a final. Yeah. You would. I think they can be a match for the likes of Donegal and Mayo and the teams that are just behind Kerry and Dublin. I'm calling this story. I've been ignoring this story actually. This is the annual why can't we play Dublin at home? And I'm not criticising any of these people because I was that person until I realised it's completely futile. You're wasting your time and there's no point in doing it. So Jack Cooney, the Westmeath manager, I saw John Heslin talking last week, and it's like, this isn't really a story anymore. So what's the point in doing anything on it? I whinged and cried about this 4 years ago now when Laois played Dublin. They brought it to Nolan Park, and since then it's just been year after year of whoever they draw complaining that they can't get a home draw against the All-Ireland champions. And I agree with everything that Jack is saying here. He said we're trying to grow the game in Westmeath. This is a huge opportunity not only for Westmeath to perform on the pitch, but for Westmeath to get behind the team. And obviously he's talking about a smaller venue, a cracking atmosphere. The GAA have proven over the years that this is a good formula and it works. Why bring it to a place that's half empty? Again, Jack, we all agree with you, but you're wasting your time and your breath because the Leinster Council will not do it.
But that's what they want you to think, will they?
The Dublin season ticket holders are royalty. in the GAA, and that's who they seem to pander to. And they want to get as many. If it meant the difference of 5,000 paying customers getting into a game, they will take that 5,000 by whatever money, and they won't see the value in Westmeath getting that home game, and the value to Westmeath. They'll rather see the value to them now with those 5,000, even though it's a crappy neutral venue and not anywhere near the same atmosphere.
But they've played in Portlaoise since, haven't they? Like against Wicklow.
Westmeath, Dublin. Had. Yeah.
So like that should be like case closed, because Laois wanted to play in Portlaoise and they weren't allowed to. But then suddenly Portlaoise it was okay. So that should be the only evidence you need. It'll
be interesting to see if they ever draw Galway or Offaly now, and would that be played in O'Connor Park? Because O'Connor Park is deemed as one of the three. Nolan Park, O'Moore Park. O'Moore Park wasn't when it was Laois. So I wonder what excuse they'll have about O'Connor Park if they draw Offaly in that. Last story of the day is Enniskerry GAA Club. I presume you saw the footage of this. This was absolutely scary stuff. So 7 of the fellas, the players who were injured in the fall, have been discharged from hospital. I can't believe no one was seriously hurt after this. Like, I don't know, it just brought back to my mind, the horrific accident in America where all the students fell off a balcony and some of them died. Yeah. That's what it looked like to me, like falling from that height, unprotected. It was crazy stuff. And thankfully that nobody's actually injured from it, but people definitely need to have a bit of cop on when they win a match like that. Like, you've a few jars on board and you're getting excited and you're at the edge of a lorry and you're being pushed off it. It was scary to look at it. Like,
head first into the ground, some of them, and then people landing on top. Like, it was horrific to see. I saw a clip last night where they brought the trophy into, must be in a local bar or something, so a lot of the boys who were in hospital
are back out.
Were out, yeah. So right. It was good to see.
Okay, that's very good to see. So it's obviously Enniskerry, on a better note, Enniskerry beat Avoca to win the Junior B football championship. So, like, it's fantastic that they paraded them after winning the Junior B football championship. Like, that's just incredible. But, Jesus, have to say, when I saw the video of it, it was like one of them could be dead after that.
Yeah.
Like, it was scary stuff. But anyways, it's all worked out all right, and the lads will be enjoying their points today, I'm sure. Right, we'll come back and we'll talk to Cian Mackey. So Castlerahan retained the Cavan County title yesterday, and Cian Mackey joins us on the line now. Cian, I have to say, I'm very, very relieved you answered the phone after you going AWOL on me for 3 days last year.
Last year was the first for the club, so it was a bit of a hectic couple of days. But this year is kind of a bit calmer, all right.
Yeah. So you've been around the schools this morning.
Yeah, we're in the Castlerahan schools and the Ballygym stuff schools there this morning. So it was good to get out and about early and get them jobs done early in the day.
Yeah. So what do you do really going around with the schools? Do you talk to them? Do you just get pictures taken? What does that entail?
Pretty much. It's just in and the kids would ask a few questions. They'd be all delighted to see the cup and see the boys that they're always watching play. And as I was a young fella, I always liked watching the seniors. They were nearly like superstars to us, so it's the same for them, and for us to go into the school is kind of good for them, and especially when you're coming in with a bit of silverware and stuff like that, it's great. So they had a few questions and a few things to sign and pictures and stuff like that. It's a good little feeling, when you're doing it with the club. It's great.
Yeah, no, and I suppose inspiring the next generation. Ballygym stuff wouldn't be the biggest town in Cavan, a population of around 2,000.
Yeah, no, Ballygym stuff would be small, and it wouldn't a massive amount of locals, we'll say. It's kind of, there's factories in Ballygym stuff and a couple of multinationals come in and work in the factories. Maybe wouldn't have a GAA background. Maybe the Castlerahan school that's in the countryside maybe have more of the GAA ethos, so it's right. It's a wee bit different, but it is a small community, but it's a tight community all the same.
Right, okay. So we'll talk about the match, Cian. It was a bit of a defensive kind of game. I know last year's final, your first ever ones, was described as a bit of a classic. This year was a bit, I think Ramor play a defensive style and you kind of had to match that pretty much.
Yeah, well, last year it was end to end. Last year, Chris Law, both teams were out to play football and a good style of football. Ramor play to your strengths as any team would, and they've a good defensive unit, and they drop men back, and we knew that before the game, so we knew we had to be patient with the ball. Where in general, DK just attack, which is great, and it's a great mindset to have for football going forward. But it was kind of a bit of more calm and composed approach yesterday. We knew they'd funnel bodies back, and we knew we'd have to keep the ball for 2-3 minutes before we'd be able to work a score. And at times we've done that very well, and at times maybe we kind of panicked and forced it and kind of kept them in the game. But it was a different style without a doubt, and look, you play to your strengths, and Ram are a good team to suck you in and play on the break. But I think maybe last year, winning the game last year left us maybe a wee bit more composed and comfortable on the ball. So I think there was no real doubt that we got the early goal. We were never really in doubt of pushing on. There's confidence in this team, and we felt that we were comfortable to win the game at any stage,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I suppose knowing the way they play, and he's got a goal on 7 minutes, psychologically that's a huge boost for you and a huge kind of boost the other direction for them, because was always going to be a low scoring game.
Yeah, without a doubt, and they played Castlerahan, and Castlerahan were tipped as hot favourites for the championship, and they got a couple of breakaway goals against Castlerahan and kept their noses in front. So it was kind of a big thing. Donald said to us, we have to get ahead early, so we forced ourselves to really press them early, and we got that goal, which was a kind of kept us that 2 points apart, for the whole game, and it kind of gave us that they had to push out in us, and we kind of stopped them playing maybe their game plan where they wanted to be able to dictate the game by holding the lead and forcing us to make mistakes. And with that goal from Oisin O'Connell, kind of just gave us that we didn't have to force the ball because we were always that 1-2 points ahead, that we could play the game at our pace,
Yeah, exactly. So how winning the title last year obviously has given you a lot of confidence. You must have been worried about ever winning one, Cian. Like, you lost 3 in a row and you'd never won it before. It must have been entering your head, when is this going to turn around for us?
Yeah, and I was only just talking to Ronan Flanagan after the match, and he said to me that Tony Brady, which would be Sean Brady's father, said to him back when we were 20-21 to me and Ronan, I don't remember it, but he said that it could be 30 or 31 before you ever get a chance to win one, and Ronan was kind of laughing at him at the time, and it materialised to be that way. It's just it's a county championship. People who have loads of them would say it's not too hard to win, but there's many a man that doesn't have any, and it's a tricky one to win. It's all good getting to a final, but getting over the line is a completely different story,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You'd won a lot at underage level. It just jump into my mind is Padraig Pearce's in Roscommon, who'd won a lot at underage level, and they only won their first one yesterday after losing a good few finals too. So you think you'll get over the line, but doing it is a different thing.
Yeah, like your mentality when you're underage, or like myself and Ronan, we say have all the championships growing up, and we assumed it'd be we'd end up getting the senior one fairly quick, but at senior level it's a completely different ball game, and the whole club is praying out for one in every parish, and especially for us that never had one, it was a huge thing. And look, we got over the line last year and it was a great relief, and this year probably it stood to us a wee bit more because there was no pressure and we could go out and play ball without the thought of, we say, falling at the last hurdle. We had the nickname of the Mayo of Cavan football, and Ronan alluded to it last year that we had lost that name, and just to get back-to-back doubles, it's a serious achievement for these group of boys.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Come here, you mentioned kind of 2 or 3 minutes of holding on to possession, and we're all used to that now, and that's the right way to deal with a team that's dropping players back behind inside the 45-metre line. What's it like for you playing that kind of game, Cian? Because you're a player who kind of started when the defensive systems weren't really there, and you like to make things happen, and you're an exciting player. Did it take you a while mentally to adjust to this, to stop giving the ball away by trying to force it, and just be patient?
Yeah, it is a big thing, because you do, when you get on the ball, you want to make things happen. It's very hard, but I do feel the whole thing has gone full circle now.
Yeah.
I think more teams are more cautious of pressing the ball. I think it's defensive teams get so far, but you don't get over the line by trying not to lose. It's a big thing. You have to go out and try and win the game, because for the first couple of finals for us, we had a defensive system, and it was more so in our head that we didn't want to lose the game instead of going out to win it. And probably Dublin are the best case scenario, that they go and they press and they go out to win the game. And I think the defensive system is gone now for any of the big teams at club and county level. And for us, yesterday we always love kicking it and going as fast as we can forward and get the scores. But as you said, it is hard for a player that wants to make things happen. He just has to be calm and cautious on the ball and move the ball as quick as he can, maybe laterally, and get the scores that way. Whereas you want to be making these little passes in the full forward line. But the only teams that really get away with doing that maybe is Crokes and Corofin at club level, because they're just so good at doing it, you know.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. So, like, I mean, I suppose the distinction there is the defensive football is dead. These are the teams that send players back ahead of the ball, because a lot of teams drift players back with the ball as they're pressing it. So I think that's the way it's changed.
Yeah, it's a high press more so, in my opinion. Now you press the ball and you track the whole back. It's not going back and waiting on teams. It's you're pressing them from, we'll say, the 21 and make the mistake higher up the field, and it's risk reward as well. You know, if you turn them over higher up the field and they're breaking out, that's where you can get your goal chances. Like Nafina had their chance against Ballyboden just before the half of extra time. You know, they pressed the ball and Ballyboden were all out, and it just didn't work for them. But I think that's the big thing for teams now is to funnel back with the play and press it as high up as you can.
Yeah, exactly. Come here, I saw a tweet from you at 6 a.m. this morning before you went to sleep, or maybe you had a few more hours left in you, I'm not too sure, but you were tweeting some of the local media, are we still too old? So I presume there was a little bit of Castlerahan being written off because of your age profile before the final.
Yeah, a little bit. We were told last year maybe we were too old, and then when we were trying to get Donald back to manage us this year, everyone that was approached to take the job told us that we were too old and the best was gone from this team. So I maybe singled out some of the media early in the early hours maybe that mightn't have said it, but it was just all in a light-hearted banter.
Yeah, but would you use little things like that as motivation, or would the team use them, or is that just something that you had in your head?
I'd say a little bit of everything. Like, we've been wrote off for years. Maybe last year we were told that we were told we stole the county final, you know, and we felt that if we had played to our ability and took our chances, we would have had the game over well before time last year. And people were saying that Crishlaw were the best team in Cavan, and we still firmly believe we're the best team in Cavan. And unless you believe that, you're going nowhere. And just for us to actually do the job again this year, I think it settles a lot of people talking on the high stools, we'll saying that we're not the best team in Cavan, but back-to-back doubles, I think, kind of to prove. So we definitely are the best team in Cavan at the moment. Yeah,
I think there's no doubt about that. I think Guidor had the same problem with Kilcar being the favourites against them, or being seen as the best team in Donegal when they're Ulster. They're actually Ulster champions. So
I think Kilcar were actually favourites to win Ulster before they even got out of Donegal. You know, so I'd say Cassidy and McGee and the boys would have been liking that them sort of news coming in before they played them in the semi-final.
Oh, I'd say they definitely were. Come here, looking back on Cavan's year, brilliant games against Armagh, fantastic stuff. Then the disappointment of losing the Ulster final. Like, I suppose finals are for winning.
Yeah, it was a serious achievement for Mickey and the boys to bring us to an Ulster final, I suppose, when we haven't been there. I think it was 18 years.
Yeah, and the Monaghan win, obviously, too, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of monkeys were off the back this year, you know, between beating Monaghan in a big championship match and actually getting to an Ulster final. We've had a few semi-finals, draws and loses against Tyrone and Monaghan and stuff like that, and Antrim over the years. And just actually getting to an Ulster final was a huge achievement. But as you say, getting to a final, they're there for winning. And look, maybe it'll stand to us over the next couple of years as Cavan. Maybe just getting there is not enough anymore. We've got there, so now it's getting there and winning the thing is the mantle we have to go for.
Yeah, exactly. How are you happy with this super sub role that you have under Mickey now? Are you happy? Well, I'm sure you're not happy with that. Do you understand it? Are you happy to go back next year with that role?
Look, at every player trains to start. You know, you don't train to sit on the bench, but as the thing is, when you're a group of players, you do what's best for the team and the management and stuff like that. And as much as you don't want to be just sitting on the bench and coming on and playing a bit part, you do everything you can to help get the boys over the line. And and this year was no different. Every time I came on, I tried to make a difference and help the boys as best I could. And I think every player that plays for Cavan is happy to do what he can to help Cavan, but you're never happy just to be playing on the bench, and if you're happy to sit on the bench, you're as well sitting at home, you know.
Yeah, but has the psychology changed though, Cian? Because like I was well documented, I'd have a face on me if I wasn't starting, but that was back in the days where you might not get on at all or whatever, whereas now every team uses their bench. If you're a sub, you could be guaranteed 25 minutes. Like, has the day of a sub going around with a face on him, is that gone? Like, is it all like a different psychology for subs?
I think so, because if you've that mentality, you're absolutely no good to any group of players, you know. And if you're going around with a frown on you, there's plenty of lads in the Cavan dressing room, me included, would tell you where to go. Because if you're going around just cribbing and crying because you're not starting, it's no good to the group of lads. And I think Jim Gavin, we alluded to the Dubs earlier on. Jim Gavin made a statement a couple of years ago that he likes to finish with maybe his strongest team, and I think more managers are kind of thinking that games are won in the last 20 minutes, not in the first 20, you know. So if you can have lads that can come on and finish the job, whether it's experience or whether it's pace or whether it's just that impact, you know, you have to have something on the bench. And Donald Keoghan done it with us and O'Connell last year, you know. He brought him on in games where plenty of people around the parish were saying that he should definitely start, but he brought him on and used him as an impact player in leading up to the final last year, and it was great for us, you know. When you're playing and you're nearly out on your feet and you see someone like Oisin coming on, it's great, you know. Yeah, no, maybe that's it. I suppose using that excuse, we finished with our best team, is a nice little line to give subs, if nothing else, even if it's not true. It's probably a get out of jail free card for a manager, but it does make a lot of sense when you sit back, when you're the sub, you think it's bullshit, like, but when it's actually, when you sit back and think about it, a game is won in the last 20 minutes, so it's huge, like. Yeah, you have an ability to get into the game straight away, because you were always a starter. I always felt coming on off the bench, I'd be trying too hard, I couldn't get my hands on the ball. Now in my head, I've wasted 10 minutes and I only have 15, and you know, my head would be all over the place. You seem to get on, but or maybe the game has changed, the ball is thrown around a lot more. Yeah, it's a possession-based game maybe at the moment now, whereas it'll be two kicks and into the full forward line, and if you're a half forward, the ball can bypass you whether you start or whether you come on. Whereas now, there's very little scores that's scored with 2-3 kicks of the ball up and down the field. Granted, they're great scores when they do happen, but it doesn't happen too often. So in the game now, there's a lot of touches. There could be 20 touches of a ball before the ball goes over the bar. So it's probably a lot easier maybe to get lads on the ball and into a game when they do come on. So possibly now, the way the game has changed, it's just a wee bit easier. Yeah, maybe it is. And you obviously have a very good relationship with Mickey Graham. You know, you played with him, I was reading, in the full forward line when you started first. Sure, Mickey was still around. Yeah, well, I played my very first game with Mickey in full forward in a challenge match against Louth in 2005, and I knew from that day that Mickey would be a good manager because he's very intelligent to play with. Right. So anyone who's intelligent to play with, he'd be a very intelligent man on the line, you know. And he had Dermot with him, who I played with as well, you know. And the two boys knew the game very well, inside out. So they have a good relationship. Yeah, no, come here, I won't keep you any longer. I'll let you back to the celebrations, even though they're toned down celebrations, right? Because I was reading, you did very well in the Ulster club. I'm sure this year the mentality might be a little bit different, because your manager was saying last year he couldn't get you together at all, and you did very well against the Derry champions. So I presume you're changing your mentality a little bit for Ulster club this year. Yeah, last year was the be all and end all, was win the club championship in Cavan. You know, that was the thing we wanted to do most. And this year we actually sat down and had a conversation in the dressing room yesterday that we'd try and kick on and actually make an imprint in Ulster, because it's a serious bunch of lads we have, and there's not too many teams that come back and do back to back. So I think it's a onus on us maybe to do ourselves a bit of justice and actually make an imprint in Ulster, and it won't be an easy task taking on the Donegal Championship champions, whoever it be. But we're looking, we'll be back training maybe Wednesday, Thursday night, and it'll be all heads all zoned in for that. Yeah, okay. Well, listen, I'll let you back to the celebrations anyways. Cian, thanks very much for taking the call. No bother, lad.
Okay, so Paddy Power performance of the weekend. We have to say it's a little bit difficult, obviously, with Paddy Power performance of the weekend when not as many games as we would like is on television. But the first nomination has to be Conor McHugh from Saturday night for Na Fianna. What an outstanding performance of left, off right, off the inside of the left, off the inside of the right, off the outside of the left, like nonchalantly sticking it over off the outside of the left from the 45. He looks naturally left-footed and has done a lot of work on his right, because he flicked over a lovely one on the run with his right, and then in the second half he did a lovely dummy back off his left, and he was on his right from a tight angle, and you could see he took an extra solo to compose himself. So he's almost as good on the right, but probably not as good. But like, I mean, he has it all like he does, and it's a bit like Conor Cox. If he was with any other county, he's suddenly immediately he's their star man. And I don't know what does Conor McHugh do? He's had a few chances. Apparently, I was talking to Alan Brogan, and he says Conor McHugh is outstanding in training. You know, he does that in Dublin training. But maybe a little bit of pressure. Like, I mean, can you imagine the pressure he'd be under getting his chance on the Dublin team, knowing that in that one game in the league he has to get 1-3, or he might not get another chance. I don't know. It's just a huge pressure. But they have so much talent. Conor McHugh's not good enough to get on the Dublin team. So what does he do? Like, what has Colin Basquel got 3-4 outstanding? Now, he's got a little bit of a chance as well. But Colin Basquel would be the number one forward in any other county in Leinster. And probably nationally outside of Kerry and Galway maybe. You know, like, it's scary, the players they have. And I don't know, is it a stupid thing to talk about a draft, or is there, I don't know, like, these lads probably don't want to transfer to another team anyways. We see Shane Horgan went to Offaly from Dublin. He's Kilmacud Crokes. These players probably don't want to play with a Laois or a Westmeath or a Meath. Like, I mean, that's the reality of it too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Basquels, do they have a Mayo parent? Like, you know, that's immediately what I was thinking, because like Colin Basquel went to America then this year, which is like, you know, you want it, like, he's good enough to be playing the Intercounty Championship. He would really give it some great moments. And
looking at the scores Conor McHugh scored yesterday, wouldn't you love to see him playing with a Meath? And sticking those points over in Croke Park? Like, I mean, these players are being wasted on a national audience because Dublin just have too many of them.
And then, as you said, when he gets his chance, he has to score 1-3, but then he's not allowed to be selfish in that team either.
Exactly.
You know, so it's a really sort of fine tightrope he's walking. I don't know. Now, he's gotten more chances than a lot of forwards in the Dublin squad.
He has got chances, and to be fair, he hasn't taken it. But here's my point. A lot of this thing with these forwards is confidence. How can you get confidence going? He reminds me of Robbie Keane with feckin' Liverpool. Like, sure, he scores a goal and then he's a sub the next day. Like, I mean, this rotation. But I don't know. I think when Conor McHugh can kick those kind of points, looks like his confidence is high. And if that's him at high confidence levels, maybe with Dublin he just didn't have, you know, he didn't feel as comfortable in his boots to try those things. Whereas
there he's very clearly the main man, and you can actually see, even when he gets it in the 45, everybody else stops. It's a really bad habit in teams, but when like the main man gets the ball, you can see everybody relaxing because hopefully he'll score. And he did more times than none. Like, that 45 one was ridiculous that he just swung over. I saw him in the championship last year and thought, he was a bit wasteful shooting from positions I thought he shouldn't be shooting from. But then when you see him on a night like that, obviously he can do it.
Yeah, no, it was. And I think that's what the outrage over his yellow card, the second yellow, probably would, if that was another player, just any other player, you wouldn't have been as pissed off. But when he was playing so well and you're like, he didn't deserve that. He's playing brilliantly and he's just been sewn up here by Declan O'Mahony. But the two Basquels got 3-9 in total, and that was 3-6 from play. Colm got 3-3 from play. Incredible stuff. And that was the two late goals, to finish it off. And Ryan got 3 from play, one at 14, the other at 11. So that we know they're brilliant players as well. And it is the Conor Cox thing. There's no doubt about that. Cian Johnson got 2-3. We mentioned him already in the show. He got 2-2 in the second half. He pretty much, as a 21-year-old, has won the county title for his club. So that's a lovely feeling to wake up on the Monday morning. Have to say, without bragging, I've felt that feeling on a Monday morning, and it's a beautiful thing to feel waking up still a little bit tipsy, knowing that you're heading into the pub to all your friends, knowing that you've done it for your club and that you've won the county title, and you get a lift in and you're just walking up the town ready to get into the pub. and it's just going to be a great day.
Piss off, boy. That's what it's all about.
All these players are heading up there to do that. Cian Johnson, those points will be sweet for Cian. Interestingly enough, he wasn't in with the Offaly seniors, and I remember talking to John Maughan, and maybe this was off the record, I can't remember, but I'm sure he won't mind too much, but thinking he needed a little bit more time. Now, we know Cian isn't the biggest fella in the world. I don't think he needs any more time. Like, what more, when you're scoring 2-3 in a county final at senior level, now you're ready. This is your time. You're a senior standard player, and we know he's a little bit wiry and he's fast and he can handle himself. He's like, I mean, he's a small player but can handle himself. So, like, I mean, he has to make the step up with Offaly this year.
Yeah, and they've all been talking about him for 3 years in Offaly, so no point in holding him back any longer. He's obviously one of their best players. Get him in. Yeah,
exactly. TJ Reid, don't know why I put TJ Reid in here. Him scoring 112 for Ballyhale isn't exactly news. He does that for Kilkenny, but he's back at it as well. Ballyhale Shamrocks came from 7 points down to beat Clara by 5. So, like, I mean, there's some big turnarounds in some of these games. 119 to 17 points. Not too much more to say about TJ Reid. Saw the Buff Egan talking about only being charged it's only a $5 into that quarter final. That's great value from the Kilkenny County Board, you'd have to say. Fair play to them. Desi Hutchinson, 1-3's first ever county final. He played soccer with Brighton. He is a left back or a midfielder. You might know him from the soccer. He joined the panel late last year. He was released from Brighton after 5 years with them, and then joined the Ballygunner. I think he just started training with them as they were in the Munster club, and now he's playing his first year with them. He's playing with Waterford United now and playing Waterford Senior as well. So this lad's a hugely talented all-rounder. So, like, I mean, he scored 1-3 in the final yesterday. So fantastic stuff from him. He said, he was quoted saying, when I was growing up, all I thought about was winning county titles with Ballygunner and playing for Waterford in Croke Park. I used to always tell Dylan Barnett, one of the lads I lived with over in England, that I'd love to go back and play GAA again. Even though I was giving my all to make a career in professional soccer, the urge to play for Waterford never went away.
Wow.
There you go. you could start crying hearing that.
I can't believe I haven't come across him.
He's playing championship football with Brighton. Well, he would have been in the Premier League 2 years ago, and this lad's dreaming of the GAA. Never leaves you.
No, I mean, I can't believe I haven't been pestering him for an interview. Like, to get all the stuff out of him. That's unreal. Because every soccer player I talk to who I know has a GAA background, I'm always sort of skirting around that issue. Like, is it something that you want to get back into?
without straight out want to. Please just say this.
Yeah. I've already got the story written. I just need your quotes to put into it.
Conor Dolan, we've mentioned him already. He's the Glencar Manor Hamilton captain.
23. Did you know that? Jesus.
Yeah, so brilliant. He captained at 23. Yeah, he scored 7 in total, 3 from play, 4 frees, and obviously one of those frees was the one near the sideline to win it. So that's fantastic stuff. Kieran Lillis, Portlaoise midfielder, obviously a Laois midfielder. Portlaoise's only player, I would say, from the first minute till the last minute that played like he was a level above the opposition, and he never let that standard drop. You'd have Brian Glynn, maybe Garrett Dillon played well in the second half, but Lillis the whole way through was the only one who looked like he was on a different level to the other team. And for me, every Portlaoise player 1 to 15 would be a level higher than their marker, and they weren't showing it. Whereas he was, he was looking like, from winning primary possession in midfield, scored 3 points from play, 2 off the right, 1 off the left. He actually scored a point like Conor McHugh's from the 45, where it's thrown back out to them outside of the right over the bar. He's able to do a lot, Lillis, and another one on the run off the left. So he's loads of ability, Kieran, very good player. And I suppose without him, Portlaoise potentially could have been on for a very embarrassing day yesterday.
Yeah, that's leadership for you, not dropping your standard.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so who are we going to get? There's probably loads more good performers, but Jesus, it's hard enough get a handle on all the games without trying to find out who played well in all the games. Performance of the weekend probably is a difficult one. I think the winner is Conor McHugh. I think he was on the television. He scored 5 from play and a completely different array of points.
Yeah.
Like, they were all different and just very hard to handle. Because he was on the televised game, he has a much better opportunity of winning. He was just outstanding in the game. Yeah. Scored 6 in total, 1 free, 5 from play. So he's Paddy Power performance of the weekend. No nominations from Scarries or anything like that you want to nominate?
Young Fionn O'Leary did really well. He's
Fionn O'Leary,
from the Underdogs, and John O'Leary's son, actually, Dublin legend.
He's John O'Leary's son.
Yeah.
And what positions he playing?
Cornerback. He was marking Philly Ryan, so he did a good job on him, but did really well.
Philly Ryan's no good
on the
if Paddy Andrews isn't there and you're depending on your Division 1 status with Philly Ryan, you're going down to intermediate, which is what happened.
Well, this is you're an inter-county snob. This is like a senior relegation club battle. You know, it's all on the line up in the boggy St Margaret's. But Fionn O'Leary did really well.
Okay, so a mention for Fionn O'Leary as well. What about your two good corner forwards and
Stephen Smith? Well, we already know that he's a 9 out of 10 every game. Great speech from Brian Cullen. Actually, you were talking about the older players and stuff like that. Just before extra time, he was just sort of basically making the point that this isn't his team anymore, and it's about time the younger lads step up. And make it their team. And if they want to be senior B, then it's up to them. And if they want to be senior A, then they have to do something now.
Oh, I like that.
That was very good.
This isn't my team anymore. I'm getting little goosebumps here with that.
Because he doesn't often give you a big G up. He talks a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But when he does that, Jesus, I could see why he won an All-Ireland a couple of times. College as well.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Great stuff. I want more of Brian Cullen's speeches, please, on a Monday, if that's possible at all. Right, so Conor McHugh, congratulations, Paddy Power performance of the weekend. That's it from us. We'll be back on Thursday and we'll have a look at there's more county finals next weekend. I think it's probably the last round of them before we get into the provincial championships. So we'll talk to you on Thursday. Good luck.